myself over the last couple of weeks, I was rummaging through old bookshelves, and I came across this book. What camera are we on? Oh, not that one. That one. There we go. This book here called The First 90 Days, and the elevator pitch. I think the elevator pitch when it first came out was the president of the United States has 100 days. You have 90. Which is quite a nice strapline, you've got to admit. And it comes from this idea in the US where when an incoming president's there, he has 100 days to do that kind of transition period. But this was all about critical success strategies for new leaders, whether you've been promoted in or whether you're coming into an organization. And it's basically sort of saying, look, you've got that kind of 90 days to make an impact on your organization. Things will be forgiven in that period, but you need to get everything sorted out in that time. And if you don't get it sorted out by then, it's much harder for you to break out of any conceptions people have of you that were built up during that time. So that was the essence. And I thought that whilst clearly we're not all about to move into leadership roles in new organizations, I thought there would be some interesting bits in there for us, whether we're contractors going back to work, whether we're people that have been furloughed and coming back in, or even whether we're people that actually haven't gone away and have still been working every day all the way through this, but are now looking at the PMO with fresh eyes and the delivery environment with fresh eyes. So I think there's a lot of sort of good ideas. So that was what I wanted to try and explore in this 10 in 10. I see from the comments that a few of you have read the book before, which is great. Becca's actually done a coaching program on it. My goodness, I didn't realize I'd have such a learned audience with me. Let's see how this goes, and you can all correct me on my interpretations afterwards. So should we start the clock, Lindsay?
Yes, yeah, the clock, yeah.
Magic. Okay, right, so let's get going. So here we are, 10 in 10 from me. The book is nicely split into chapters. It's an easy read. Each chapter covers one of the key aspects that we've got, which is quite nice. The number one thing in the book was promote yourself. This doesn't mean start advertising, billboards, get yourself all over YouTube and Insta. This is about promoting yourselves in terms of into that leadership role. So again, whilst this is talking about leaders in organizations, it's assuming that you're either being promoted internally in the organization to a management role, or you're coming into a more senior role in the organization. Now, whilst the book comes at it from that angle, I think it's just as valid for us now in our sort of return to new normal, as it were, because what it actually talks about, if you ignore the promote bit of it, it talks about making a mental or mind shift, a mindset shift. And I think that's probably valid for us, whether you're moving into a new role or whether you're actually just thinking about how you want to perform in your existing role a bit differently. So there's a few key questions that it covers here. What's different? So if you are about to go back to work, if you've been furloughed, or if you're moving into a company or whatever, if you just want to reposition your PMO or your role in it as part of a new normal, ask yourself what is different and try and get into that mindset before you go in. Now, maybe you've got a few days before you go back to work, in which case you've got time to do that thinking. But even if you're in every day, maybe that's something you could think about on the train in the morning. Get yourself into the mindset of the role you want to be doing and the PMO you want to be part of. Get yourself in that zone and understand it. The other part there is around assessing your vulnerabilities. Be open with yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And essentially, sorry, Lindsay, and strengths as well. It does tend to focus on vulnerabilities in this one, but strengths as well. Best thing I'd say for that is take a look at SWOT analysis. If you go onto Hot PMO, there's a bit in there about SWOT analysis if you look in the management models bit, but there's loads of stuff around doing personal SWOT analyses, assessing your own strengths, your own weaknesses, understand what those are, and then look at what you can do to double down on your strengths and use them to your advantage, and look at what you can do to minimize the impact of your vulnerabilities. Accelerating your learning. So this is about defining your learning agenda. That doesn't mean you have to rush straight off to pmolearning.co.uk from Lindsay's site and sign up for a whole load of training courses. This is about the learning that you want to do to achieve that normal in your organization. So you'll be learning, yes, there's the training courses, but also people you want to learn from in your organization. If you've been off and you're going back, or if you want to make a step change within your team, who do you need to speak to? Who do you want to get greater insight from? Do you want to be speaking to corporate risk because you've never quite understood how your risk management in projects fits in with the corporate side of things? Do you want to get closer to finance, to HR? Do you want to understand an operational area better? All of these are areas of learning that you could explore. Understand who you want to speak to and understand who those people are, who would be the sources of learning, and then create yourself a learning plan for this week, next week, a month out, those things, and then commit to doing that yourself as you go. So what you're doing is building up a broader understanding of the things and the people that can help you go forwards. Strategies and situation, simply put, there is absolutely no point in going in really governance heavy if your organization's mindset is on actually we're massively reactive responses and we're responding to what we've seen as a crisis in terms of cash flow, in terms of customers, hemorrhaging customers, whatever it may be. So it's really important to understand the situation your organization is in and then be the ones that are leading on the front foot with that. Key questions once you understand that properly is what questions, the questions that you want to answer for yourself is how much time are you going to spend doing that learning stuff versus rolling your sleeves up and just cracking on with it? Do you want to be offensive or are you defending your position? And what quick wins can you implement in the organization to help people and help the organization? Now, securing early wins kind of leads in very nicely from that. Those wins will boost your credibility. They'll motivate and inspire the other people around you, get people excited, and they'll get people on side. So if you want to make change, these kind of quick wins will help people say, all right, there's results happening over there. I want to be a part of that. And crucially, whilst this is a little bit about me, what I'm doing, it creates value for the organization as well. But quick wins, be careful with them. You must read the business situation and culture. There's no point in going in and saying, right, as a quick win, I'm going to implement risk logs and decision logs and RAID everywhere if actually the organization is not one that really likes a lot of spreadsheets and they are very agile and adverse to documentation. So read the room and recognize what your manager wants, because it's your manager and your key stakeholders are the people that you're kind of trying to win over with these early wins. Negotiating success, in a nutshell there, it's about making sure you communicate with your key stakeholders, whether those are your managers, project managers, your fellow teammates, but clarify expectations early and often, sitting down often saying, this is what I'm doing. Do you understand where that leads? Are we all in agreement on that? Are we all going in the right direction? That's probably the most important thing that I took away from that chapter. And the key one at the end there as well, no surprises. This responsibility for making relationships work is kind of a key one. It's very easy, and I've done it as well, where I moan about this person who never seems to engage with me. Maybe use that time to reset some of those relationships and think about what you can do to make those relationships work better, rather than automatically putting the blame on others for it as well. Achieving alignment. Is your strategy sound? If you're a manager, it could be the strategy for your team. If it's you, it could be the strategy for how you want to work with the rest of the organization. Maybe you want to look at your the skills of the people around you. Have your project managers got the right skill set? Have the analysts you work with got the right skill set? And what does that mean and what can you do about it? Now, this idea of building a highly performant team is, again, the book's very much aimed at leaders, but do have a think and have a look at the PMO team and the project managers you work with and think about them through the lens of these areas. Have they got the right competence? Are they using good judgment? Is there energy there? And have they focused? Have they got the right relationships? And is there that nice trust relationship between you? If any of those things aren't there, it doesn't matter if you're a manager or an analyst or somebody really junior in a team. Have a look at those areas and see how you can play a part in building those up, because this is not just about managers. This is about you taking small acts of leadership that will drive the organization forwards from wherever you sit within it. Coalitions are massively important, and if you're a contractor going into an organization for the first time, you should be looking to build these coalitions as fast as you can, so you're building up your support network. And this is the model that's in the 90-day book. They see this as a cycle, and simply put, they said, look, by gaining allies in the organization, it helps you recruit others, which increases your resource base of people that will support you and help you get your ideas and your missions and your vision achieved. And if all those people are on board, that increases your likelihood of success, and that will help you further in gaining more people, and thus that cycle kind of goes up. So that's the idea there. You can think about that if you want to make changes to how project management works, if you want to build up, introduce a new process or new, or train people up in a new skill set or try something different. This cycle works for all of those. Find some key people that you can get on board as allies and get them to help bring other people in, increase that resource base. That increases your likelihood of success, and thus you end up in that nice virtuous circle for yourselves. All of that sounds great, but it is important to support yourself throughout this. If you've had, I mean, I'm terrible. My wife laughed at me when I had a few weeks out last year, and I was looking online and I found some stuff about doing a DBA, a doctorate in business administration, the kind of doctor level of an MBA. And I was looking at it going, oh, do you know what? That sounds really excited. I could really get into that. And she looked at me and said, are you saying that just because you've had a couple of weeks off when you're getting itchy fingers now? And is this really something you can do? And she was right. It probably was too much. And I'm quite glad that I listened to her advice on that one, because that kind of is about this regular self-assessmentness. That burnout in particular is the very last one there. If you try and go in all guns blazing and do too much at once, you do run the risk of burnout, and you do need to keep yourself in check, have the right regulation systems in place for yourself, use your friends and colleagues and that kind of coalition you built up to support you. So all of those good support systems you've got in place, and take time to reflect on how you're doing. Do your own sort of personal retrospectives. What is going well, and remind yourself of what your goals were, what the mission was that you were trying to achieve, and how you can take that forward, but in a way that keeps you resilient and allows you to do that in a sustainable, continuous way. That, in a nutshell, was it for me. So there you go. I've saved you all of that reading by doing 10 slides in 10 minutes.